I spent 23 years putting monsters in cages. Rapists, killers, men who thought they were too smart to get caught. I learned to read bruises like some people read books. Every mark tells a story. Every pattern reveals intent. So when my daughter showed up at my door that Thursday night with her face looking like a crime scene photograph, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I went into what my old partner used to call operational mode. The doorbell rang at 9:47 p.m. I remember because I'd just settled into my recliner with a cup of chamomile tea, watching the rain hammer against the windows of my little colonial in Maple Grove. Thunder rolled across the Ohio sky like God clearing his throat. I wasn't expecting anyone. The second ring was desperate, frantic, the kind of sound that makes your blood pressure spike even before you know why. I opened the door. Emily collapsed into my arms. My daughter, my beautiful, strong, 34-year-old daughter who ran a marketing department and wore power suits and never let anyone see her sweat, crumpled against my chest like a broken bird. Her right eye was swollen shut, purple and grotesque. Blood trickled from her split lip. Her white blouse was torn at the collar, revealing bruises around her throat in the distinct pattern of fingers. "Mom," she whispered, and the word came out wet and broken. I caught her weight, guided her inside, kicked the door shut with my heel. My hands moved on autopilot, checking her pulse, her pupils, scanning for signs of concussion or internal bleeding. 23 years on the force doesn't just go away when you turn in your badge. It becomes part of your DNA. "Can you walk?" I asked. My voice was steady, calm. It's what she needed. She nodded against my shoulder. I guided her to the bathroom, sat her on the closed toilet lid, and opened the medicine cabinet. The fluorescent light was harsh and unforgiving. It showed me everything I didn't want to see and everything I needed to document. The bruises on her face were fresh, maybe an hour old. The swelling around her eye suggested a closed fist, not an open hand. The fingerprints on her throat were deliberate, controlled, someone who knew exactly how much pressure to apply without crushing the windpipe. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was practiced. I dampened a clean washcloth with warm water and began cleaning the blood from her lip. She flinched, but didn't pull away. Her good eye stared at the tile floor, unfocused and empty. "Emily," I said softly, "I need you to tell me what happened." She was silent for a long moment. The only sound was water dripping from the washcloth into the sink, a steady rhythm that reminded me of interrogation rooms and confession tapes. "It was Robert," she finally whispered. Her voice was hollow, scraped raw. "He's been. There's someone else, Vanessa from his office. I found messages on his phone tonight. When I confronted him, Her voice cracked. "He said if I told anyone, if I embarrassed him, he'd make sure I lost everything. The house, my savings, my reputation. He said he'd prove I was unstable." My hand stilled on her face. "And then?" "He grabbed me by the throat and told me to remember who I was talking to." A single tear rolled down her bruised cheek. "He said I was nothing without him, that you were just a washed-up old woman who couldn't protect me even if you tried." Something cold and ancient settled in my chest. I'd felt it before. The last time was when I'd tracked down a child predator who'd been operating in 3 states. It was the feeling of absolute certainty, of knowing exactly what needed to be done, and having zero moral hesitation about doing it. I finished cleaning her wounds in silence, applied antibiotic ointment, gave her 2 ibuprofen and a glass of water, tucked her into my guest bedroom with an ice pack and my old softball bat leaning against the nightstand. She was asleep in minutes, exhaustion and shock finally dragging her under. Then I went downstairs and waited. Robert called at 11:03 p.m. I let it ring 3 times before answering, long enough to sound like I'd been asleep. "Martha?" His voice was smooth, concerned, perfectly modulated. If I hadn't seen my daughter's face, I might have believed it. "I'm so sorry to call this late. Is Emily there? She had some kind of episode tonight and ran off. I'm worried sick about her. Episode. The word dripped with implication. Unstable, irrational, not to be believed. I kept my voice neutral, grandmother-like. She's here, Robert. She's sleeping now. Poor thing was exhausted. Oh, thank God. He exhaled dramatically. I've been driving around for hours looking for her. Can I come get her? I think she needs her husband right now. It's late, Robert. Let's let her rest tonight. We can talk in the morning. A pause. I could hear him recalculating, trying to decide if I was a threat or just an old woman who didn't understand the situation. Of course, he said finally. You're right. I'll come by first thing tomorrow, around 9? Perfect. Sleep well, Robert. I hung up before he could respond. Then I walked to my home office and opened the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet, the one that still held my old case files, my contact lists, my networks. I pulled out a yellow legal pad and wrote 3 names at the top: Vanessa Chen, Linda Chen, David Chen. Robert thought he was dealing with a tired 62-year-old woman whose glory days were behind her. He thought he'd isolated my daughter, destroyed her credibility, positioned himself as the concerned husband dealing with an unstable wife. He was wrong on every count. I'd spent 2 decades hunting people who thought they were smarter than everyone else. I knew how to find the cracks in a story, how to follow money trails, how to turn accomplices against each other. I knew which judges owed me favors, which forensic accountants would work off the clock, which FBI agents would take my call at midnight. Robert didn't need a lawyer. He needed a miracle, and those were in very short supply. I woke at 5:17 a.m., 3 minutes before my alarm. Old habits. The house was still dark, silent except for the ancient furnace groaning to life in the basement. I made coffee, strong, black, the kind that tastes like burnt regret but keeps you sharp, and sat at my kitchen table with my yellow legal pad. Emily was still asleep upstairs. I checked on her twice during the night, watched her breathing, noted the way she curled into herself, even in sleep. Defense posture. She'd probably been doing it for months. I pushed the anger down. Anger makes you sloppy. Anger makes you miss details. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I'd called 1,000 times. Ray Moreno answered on the second ring. Martha Reynolds. It's 5:30 in the goddamn morning. I need a favor. Of course you do. I heard rustling, the sound of him sitting up in bed. Ray had been my partner for 11 years before I retired. He was still working homicide, still the best detective in Columbus, still the only person who could read me like a map. What's going on? My son-in-law put his hands on Emily. The line went quiet. Then, where is she? Safe. With me. But Ray, this isn't just domestic violence. There's more here. I can feel it. Your feelings are usually felonies waiting to be discovered. He exhaled slowly. What do you need? Everything you can find on Robert Chen. 38, corporate consultant, works at Chen and Webb Associates downtown. I need financials, complaints, restraining orders, anything that shows a pattern. Give me 2 hours. 1. Martha. 1 hour, Ray. He's coming here at 9, and I need ammunition before he arrives. He hung up. That was Ray. No wasted words when it mattered. My second call went to Sarah Chen. No relation to Robert's family, just an unfortunate coincidence of surnames. Sarah was a forensic accountant who'd helped me crack 3 embezzlement cases back in the day. She owed me nothing, but she was good people. Martha, is this about a case? It's about my daughter. Say less. What do you need? I gave her Emily's social security number, the approximate date of her marriage, and Robert's business information. I think he's been moving money, possibly forging documents. Emily mentioned he threatened to take everything from her. I need to know if he's already started. I'll dig. Call you back in an hour. 2 calls, 2 favors. The network was activating. Emily's phone buzzed on the counter. I'd taken it from her purse last night, knew Robert would try to reach her. The screen lit up with a text from Robert. Baby, I'm so sorry about last night. I was stressed about work, and I took it out on you. That's not who I am. Please come home so we can talk. I love you. Classic abuser playbook. Minimize, deflect, love bomb. I didn't respond. Let him wonder. Let him sweat. Sarah called back at 6:43 a.m. Martha, you need to sit down. I was already sitting. Talk to me. 3 loans in Emily's name, taken out over the past 8 months from Midwest Capital Trust. Total value, $450,000. The collateral listed is her inheritance from her father, that trust fund he left her. My grip tightened on the phone. She never mentioned taking out loans. Because she didn't. I pulled the applications. The signatures don't match her known handwriting. I cross-referenced with her tax returns. And get this. The witness signature on all 3 applications is someone named Vanessa Chen. Same last name as your son-in-law. Where did the money go? That's where it gets interesting. The funds were wired to a business account at Chen and Webb Associates, then immediately transferred to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Account holder is listed as RDC Holdings, LLC, which is registered to Robert David Chen. I wrote it all down, my handwriting sharp and precise. Can you get me copies of those loan applications? I'm emailing them to you now. Martha, this is wire fraud, federal crime. If you can prove she didn't sign those documents, I can prove it. Send me everything. By 7:30 a.m., I had Ray's report and Sarah's financial breakdown spread across my kitchen table. The picture was crystallizing. Robert Chen had 2 prior complaints filed against him, both dismissed. One from an ex-girlfriend in 2019, another from a former business associate in 2021. Both involved allegations of intimidation and financial manipulation. Both complainants mysteriously withdrew their statements. The business associate's complaint mentioned Robert's father, David Chen, helping to restructure accounts during a dispute. Pattern recognition. It's what made me good at my job. This wasn't one abusive husband. This was a family business. At 8:15 a.m., I got in my car and drove to the business district. Chen and Webb Associates occupied the 3rd floor of a glass and steel building that screamed new money. I parked across the street with a clear view of the entrance and waited. Robert's white Tesla pulled into the garage at 8:47 a.m. Vanessa Chen arrived 7 minutes later in a silver Lexus, her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, her designer handbag probably worth more than my mortgage payment. I watched her walk into the building, confident, comfortable, complicit. At 11:30 a.m., she came out again, alone, and walked 3 blocks to a cafe called The Morrison. Upscale. Expensive salads and imported sparkling water. I followed her inside, ordered a coffee I didn't want, and sat 2 tables away. Vanessa pulled out her phone, ordered something green and overpriced, and made a call. "It's me," she said quietly, but not quietly enough. The cafe was half empty, the acoustics perfect. "No, she hasn't responded to any of his texts. I don't know where she went. He's freaking out." Well, what did he expect? You can't do that to someone and think they'll just come home. The Cayman account is fine. David moved everything last week. There's no paper trail back to us. I know. We just need to keep Emily in the dark for another 6 months. Then the trust fund statute of limitations runs out, and she can't contest the loans even if she finds out. She laughed. Actually laughed. Robert's going to her mother's house this morning to smooth things over. He'll convince her it was a misunderstanding, bring her home, and we go back to business as usual. The old woman won't be a problem. She's just a retired cop. What's she going to do, lecture him? I sipped my coffee, let the rage simmer, controlled, focused. Vanessa hung up, ate her salad, checked her makeup in a compact mirror. I sat there until she left. Then I sat there 5 minutes longer. Then I drove home and added 3 more names to my legal pad. David Chen, Robert's father, accountant, offshore specialist. Linda Chen, Robert's mother, likely knows everything. Marcus Webb, business partner, probably involved. This wasn't just about punishing Robert for what he did to Emily's face. This was about dismantling an entire criminal enterprise that had been operating under the guise of a respectable consulting firm. By the time I pulled into my driveway at 1:15 p.m., I had 17 pages of notes, 6 federal crimes documented, and a very clear strategy. Robert had built his empire on the assumption that no one would dig deep enough to find the rot. He was wrong, and I was just getting started. Emily came downstairs at 9:47 a.m. Saturday morning, moving like someone who'd aged 30 years overnight. The bruises on her face had ripened into deep purples and sickly yellows. Her right eye was still partially swollen shut. She wore my old Ohio State sweatshirt and a pair of pajama pants, her hair unwashed and tangled. She looked like a ghost of herself. "Coffee?" I asked, already pouring her a cup. She nodded and sat at the kitchen table, pulling the sleeves of the sweatshirt over her hands. A gesture I recognized from her childhood, making herself small, invisible. I set the coffee in front of her along with cream and sugar, scrambled some eggs, made toast. She needed food even if she didn't want it. "Robert didn't come by yesterday," she said quietly. "No. He called 3 times. I didn't answer. He's probably angry. Let him be angry." She picked at the eggs, took a small bite. "Mom, I don't know what to do. Everything is in his name. The house, the cars, even my credit cards. He said if I left him, I'd have nothing. And maybe he's right. Maybe I did overreact. He's never hit me before, and he was under so much stress with the business. Emily," I sat across from her, kept my voice level. "Did he tell you he was under stress? Did he explain that's why he put his hands on you?" She nodded slowly. "That's what they all say. Every single one." I reached across and gently touched her uninjured hand. "You didn't overreact. You survived. There's a difference." Tears welled in her good eye. Before she could respond, we both heard it, the crunch of tires on gravel, a car door slamming. I looked out the window. A silver Mercedes, not Robert's Tesla. "Stay here," I said. But Emily was already standing, peering through the curtain. "Oh God, that's his parents." Linda and David Chen walked up my front path carrying a bakery box and wearing expressions of practiced concern. Linda wore a cream-colored cashmere coat and pearls. David was in slacks and a button-down, his silver hair perfectly styled. They looked like they were heading to a country club brunch, not a crisis intervention. I opened the door before they could knock. "Martha." Linda's smile was warm, maternal, completely artificial. "We were so worried when Robert told us Emily was here. We brought croissants from that French bakery downtown, Emily's favorite." It probably was Emily's favorite. That's what made it insidious. "Linda, David." I didn't move from the doorway. "This isn't a good time." "We just want to see her," David said quietly. His voice was reasonable, calming, accountant voice. "Make sure she's all right." Behind me, Emily appeared in the hallway. "It's okay, Mom." I wanted to slam the door. Instead, I stepped aside. Linda swept in like she owned the place, immediately moving to embrace Emily. "Oh, sweetheart, look at you. You must have been so frightened." Emily stiffened in her arms, but didn't pull away. David followed, scanning the room with quick, efficient glances. Looking for something. Documents? Emily's phone? I made a mental note. We moved to the living room. Linda set the bakery box on the coffee table, opened it with a flourish. "I know things got heated the other night. Robert is absolutely devastated. He didn't sleep at all. He's been sick with worry." "Heated," I repeated flatly. Linda's eyes flicked to me, then back to Emily with renewed warmth. "You know how passionate Robert can be. He loves you so much, Emily. Sometimes that intensity comes out wrong, especially when he's under tremendous pressure at work." The script was perfect, practiced. I wondered how many times she'd delivered this speech. David sat forward, hands clasped between his knees. "Robert told us about the argument, about the woman from his office." He shook his head sadly. "That's a misunderstanding, Emily. Vanessa is his assistant. The messages were about a client dinner. Robert would never— I saw the messages, Emily said, her voice small. They weren't about work. You were upset, Linda interjected smoothly. It's easy to misinterpret things when emotions are running high. Robert showed us his phone, all business correspondence, whatever you thought you saw. I watched Emily's face, watched the doubt creeping in. The gaslighting was professional grade, a coordinated tag team designed to make her question her own reality. We think it might be best if you came to stay with us for a few days, David suggested. Give everyone some space. Let Robert calm down, let you get some rest. We have that guest suite you always loved. Remember? With the garden view? That's a wonderful idea, Linda agreed, reaching for Emily's hand. You shouldn't be dealing with this alone. And Martha, no offense, but you have your own life. We don't want to burden you with our family matters. Our family matters. The implication was clear. This was Chen family business, and I was an outsider. Emily looked at me, her expression torn. Actually, I said, standing up and walking to the kitchen. I returned with my laptop, opened it on the coffee table, and pulled up the email Sarah had sent. Before Emily makes any decisions, she should see these: 3 loan applications, Emily's forged signature, Vanessa Chen listed as witness, $450,000 transferred to offshore accounts. The color drained from Linda's face. Emily stared at the screen, her hands shaking. What? What is this? Your inheritance, I said calmly. Robert forged your signature on 3 loans using your trust fund as collateral. The money is gone, moved to the Cayman Islands 8 months ago. David Chen stood abruptly. Where did you get those documents? Does it matter? Those are private financial records. They're fraudulent financial records, I corrected. Wire fraud, federal crime. Your son stole nearly $500,000 from my daughter. Linda recovered first, her mask slipping back into place, but I'd seen the crack. This is ridiculous. Robert would never— Emily, your mother is clearly trying to poison you against your own husband. This is exactly why we need to get you away from here. Emily was still staring at the screen, her finger tracing the signature that wasn't hers. You knew, she whispered. You knew he was doing this. Sweetheart, no! You came here to convince me to go back to him, to keep me quiet. Emily looked up, and something in her face had changed. The ghost was gone. Something harder had taken its place. How long has this been going on? Linda stood, gathering her purse. We came here out of love and concern. If you're going to listen to paranoid conspiracy theories instead of your own family, get out, I said. David was already moving toward the door, but Linda turned back, and for just a moment, I saw the real woman beneath the pearls and cashmere. Cold, calculating, dangerous. You're making a mistake, Martha. Robert has lawyers, good lawyers, and you're just a retired cop with a grudge. This won't end the way you think it will. Out, now. They left. The Mercedes backed out of my driveway too fast, tires spitting gravel. Emily sat frozen on the couch, still staring at the laptop screen. They were going to take me to their house, she said quietly. They were going to isolate me, convince me I was crazy, and make sure I never saw these documents. Yes. How much of my money is left? I don't know yet, but we're going to find out, all of it. She looked up at me, her bruised face set with new determination. What do we do? I sat beside her and opened a fresh page on the legal pad. We build a case they can't fight their way out of, and we do it fast, because now they know we're coming. Sunday morning, I woke at 4:53 a.m. with a name circling my brain like a vulture. Marcus Webb, Robert's business partner, the other half of Chen and Webb Associates. The man whose signature appeared on dozens of corporate documents alongside Robert's, but who'd been conspicuously absent from every conversation about the fraud. I made coffee in the pre-dawn darkness and opened my laptop. Emily was still asleep upstairs. She'd finally crashed around midnight after hours of crying and rage and disbelief. Good. She needed rest. I needed focus. Marcus Webb, 42 years old, MBA from Ohio State, married, 2 kids in private school, co-founded the consulting firm with Robert 6 years ago. On paper, he was a success story. Nice house in the suburbs, country club membership, the whole American dream package. But Ray had sent me something interesting in his overnight email. Marcus Webb had been questioned by Columbus PD 8 months ago in connection with an illegal gambling operation. No charges filed, but the report noted he owed significant money to some very unpleasant people. Debt makes people vulnerable. Vulnerability makes them useful. I cross-referenced the dates. Marcus's gambling investigation happened in March. The first forged loan in Emily's name was taken out in April. Coincidence? I stopped believing in those around my 3rd year as a detective. At 7:15 a.m., Ray called. "Found something you'll love," he said without preamble. Marcus Webb filed a complaint with the Ohio Better Business Bureau 3 months ago against Chen and Webb Associates, his own company. Complaint alleged accounting irregularities and unauthorized financial transactions. He withdrew it 2 days later. Someone got to him. That'd be my read. Also, I talked to a buddy in financial crimes. They've had Chen and Webb on their radar for a year because of suspicious wire transfers, but never had enough evidence to get a warrant. If you're building something here, Martha, they'd love to hear about it. I'll keep that in mind. Don't do anything stupid. Ray, I'm 62 years old. Stupid is for young people. He laughed and hung up. I spent the next hour digging through Marcus Webb's social media, his patterns, his routines. He was a creature of habit. Same coffee shop every Sunday morning at 9 a.m., same table by the window, same order. People like that are easy to predict. At 8:45 a.m., I was parked outside Common Grounds Coffee on Henderson Street, watching Marcus through the window. He sat alone, scrolling through his phone, a large black coffee and a scone untouched in front of him. He looked tired, more than tired, haunted. I gave him 10 minutes to settle, then walked inside. The cafe was busy with the Sunday morning crowd, young families, college students, churchgoers grabbing caffeine before service. I ordered a latte I didn't want and positioned myself in his sightline. He glanced up, looked right past me, went back to his phone. I walked to his table. "Marcus Webb?" His head snapped up, eyes widening. "Do I know you?" "Not yet. I'm Martha Reynolds, Emily's mother." The color drained from his face. He started to stand. "I don't think we should—" "Sit down, Marcus." My voice was quiet, but had the weight of 23 years behind it. "We both know you're going to want to hear what I have to say." He sat. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for his coffee. I pulled out my phone, opened the email from Sarah, and showed him the screen. The wire transfers, the offshore accounts. Chen and Webb Associates right there in black and white, facilitating the movement of stolen money across international borders. "That's wire fraud," I said conversationally. "Federal crime, 10 to 20 years if convicted, more if they can prove conspiracy, which they can, because your company name is on every single transaction." His voice cracked. "I didn't know what Robert was doing, not at first. But you figured it out." He looked at me with eyes that had seen too many sleepless nights. 3 months ago, I was reconciling our quarterly taxes and found discrepancies. Accounts that didn't match our books. Money moving in ways that didn't make sense. When I confronted Robert, he told me to mind my own business. Marcus laughed bitterly. "My own business. The company I co-founded." "You filed a complaint with the BBB?" His jaw tightened. "For all the good it did. Robert's father showed up at my house the next day. David Chen. Nice guy, accountant, supposed to be retired. He sat in my living room and showed me pictures. Me at the casino, me meeting with a loan shark named Eddie Torrance, receipts for $60,000 in gambling debts I couldn't pay. He threatened you. He said if I pursued the complaint, if I made trouble, that information would go to the police, to my wife, to my kids' school. He said I'd lose everything." Marcus's hands clenched around his coffee cup. "So I withdrew the complaint, and I kept my mouth shut while Robert continued using our company to launder money. I pulled out my legal pad and pen. Tell me everything. Start with the dual accounting books. He hesitated, glanced around the cafe. If Robert finds out I talked to you, Marcus, Robert is going to federal prison. The only question is whether you go with him or whether you help put him there. I leaned forward. I can connect you with the FBI. They'll offer immunity in exchange for testimony. But you need to decide right now which side of this you want to be on. His eyes filled with tears. This was a man who'd made bad choices but wasn't fundamentally evil. Just weak. Just scared. There are 2 sets of books, he said quietly. One for the IRS, one for reality. Robert's been underreporting income for 4 years. We owe probably $800,000 in back taxes. David set up the offshore accounts, 3 of them, all in the Cayman Islands. Robert funnels money there through fake consulting contracts. Emily's inheritance? One of several. There were 2 other clients Robert defrauded the same way. Forged signatures, fake loans, stolen trust funds. He's good at finding vulnerable people and exploiting them. Marcus wiped his eyes. I kept copies of everything. Insurance, I guess, or maybe just because I knew this day would come. Where are the copies? Safety deposit box at Midwest Bank, box 447. I wrote it down. You'll give federal prosecutors access to that box? Yes. And you'll testify, under oath, in open court if necessary? He nodded slowly. I have kids, Martha. I can't go to prison. I'll do whatever it takes. Good. I stood, tucked my legal pad back into my purse. Someone from the FBI will contact you within 48 hours. Don't talk to Robert. Don't talk to David. Don't talk to anyone but your lawyer and the feds. Understand? I understand. He looked up at me, his face gray with fear. Martha, Robert knows you're investigating. He called me yesterday, asked if anyone had been asking questions about the business. I told him no, but he's planning something. He said he's going to Emily's mother's house tomorrow to bring her home, and that no one was going to stop him. Ice ran down my spine. What exactly did he say? He said, that old woman thinks she can protect Emily. She's about to learn she can't protect anyone. I kept my expression neutral, but my mind was already calculating. Tomorrow was Monday. Robert would come to my house expecting to intimidate me, expecting to drag Emily back to his penthouse and silence her before the walls closed in. He had no idea the walls had already collapsed. Thank you, Marcus, I said. You did the right thing. I walked out of the coffee shop, got in my car, and sat there for a moment watching the Sunday morning crowd go about their normal lives. Church bells rang in the distance. Somewhere a child laughed. Then I pulled out my phone and called the one person I knew could help me set the perfect trap. Special Agent Linda Morrison, FBI Financial Crimes Division. We'd worked 3 cases together before I retired. She owed me one favor. Tomorrow I was going to collect. I woke Emily at 6:15 a.m. Monday morning. She came downstairs in the same Ohio State sweatshirt, her face still a canvas of purple and yellow bruises, but her eyes were different, clearer, harder. Is today the day? She asked. Today's the day. Special Agent Linda Morrison arrived at 7:03 a.m. with 2 tech specialists and a briefcase full of recording equipment. Linda was 51, sharp as a scalpel, with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. We'd worked together on an embezzlement ring back in 2019. I'd provided the local intel. She'd provided the federal muscle. We'd put 6 people away for a combined 70 years. Martha Reynolds. She shook my hand firmly. When you call in a favor, you don't mess around. Robert Chen is coming here at 9 to intimidate my daughter into silence. I want every word recorded, admissible in federal court. Linda smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. Then let's make sure we do this right. The tech team moved through my house like surgical ghosts, tiny microphones hidden in the living room lamp, the bookshelf, the kitchen clock, video camera disguised as a smoke detector, backup audio recorder in my purse. They worked in silence, efficient and professional. Emily watched from the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a coffee mug she wasn't drinking from. "What if I mess this up?" she asked quietly. "What if I say the wrong thing?" I sat beside her. "You won't. But Emily, listen to me carefully. Robert is going to try to manipulate you. He'll apologize. He'll love bomb you. And when that doesn't work, he'll threaten you. You need to stay calm and let him talk. The more he says, the more rope he gives us." "What if he gets violent again?" Linda appeared in the doorway. "He won't. We have 4 agents positioned outside in unmarked vehicles. The second things get physical, we come through that door. But Martha's right, we need him to incriminate himself on tape. Ask him about the loans. Ask him about Vanessa. Ask him about the offshore accounts. Let him explain himself into a federal prison cell." Emily nodded slowly. "Okay, I can do this." At 8:34 a.m., Emily's phone buzzed. A text from Robert. "I'm coming over at 9. We need to talk. No more of this dramatic bullshit, Emily. Time to come home." The language was telling. No apology, no concern, just entitlement and demand. "He's exactly on schedule," I said. "Narcissists are predictable." At 8:55 a.m., Linda and her team cleared out through the back door. The house looked normal, untouched, just another Monday morning in suburban Ohio. Emily sat in the living room, her hands folded in her lap. I stood in the kitchen, visible from the living room but not intrusive. The stage was set, the stage. At 9:07 a.m., Robert's white Tesla pulled into my driveway. He walked to the door like he owned the property, shoulders back, chin up, expensive suit perfectly tailored. He rang the doorbell once, impatient. I opened the door. "Martha." His smile was practiced, professional. "Thanks for taking care of Emily this weekend." "I'm here to take her home now." "She's in the living room." He walked past me without waiting for an invitation. I followed, staying quiet, watching. Robert stopped when he saw Emily's face. The bruises had darkened over the weekend, impossible to miss, impossible to explain away. "Jesus, Em." He moved toward her, hands outstretched. "Baby, I'm so sorry. I was out of my mind that night. Work stress, the merger deal falling through. I wasn't myself. You know I'd never hurt you intentionally." Emily didn't stand, didn't move toward him. "You put your hands on my throat. I know, and I hate myself for it. But you have to understand, I found out that day we'd lost the Johnson contract, and then you were accusing me of cheating with Vanessa, and I just snapped." He knelt in front of her, the picture of contrition. "It will never happen again. I swear on my life. Come home. Let me make this right." "Tell me about the loans," Emily said quietly. Robert's expression flickered, just for a second. "What loans?" "The ones you took out in my name, $450,000 from my trust fund." He stood slowly, his face rearranging itself into confusion. "Em, I don't know what your mother has been telling you, but I saw the documents, the signatures, Vanessa's name as a witness." Robert laughed, actually laughed. "Those must be fabricated. Your mother is trying to turn you against me because she's never liked me. She's a bitter old woman who can't accept that you have your own life now." "So you didn't forge my signature?" "Of course not. This is insane." He looked at me, his eyes cold. "What did you do? Hire some forensic guy to create fake documents? You really hate me that much?" I stayed silent. Let him talk. "Emily, listen to me." Robert's voice shifted, harder now. "Your mother is manipulating you. She's always been jealous of what we have. And now she's fabricating evidence to destroy our marriage. If you believe her lies, you're going to lose everything. The house, the lifestyle, everything I've built for us." "Everything you stole, you mean?" Robert's jaw tightened. "I didn't steal anything. And even if your mother has some documents that look suspicious, it doesn't matter. You have no proof. It's your word against mine, and who do you think people will believe? A successful businessman or an emotionally unstable woman who ran away in the middle of the night and hid at her mother's house? There it was, the threat wrapped in concern. "You're right about one thing," I said, walking into the living room. "She does need proof." I placed my dossier on the coffee table between them. 17 pages, bank records, forged loan applications, wire transfer receipts, offshore account statements, Marcus Webb's written statement, the dual accounting books. Robert stared at the documents, his face going pale. "That's wire fraud," I said conversationally. "Tax evasion, forgery, conspiracy. Your business partner flipped yesterday, gave the FBI everything, your father's offshore accounts, your mother's knowledge of the scheme, all of it." Robert's hands clenched into fists. "You can't use any of this. It's illegally obtained." "Actually, it's not. Forensic accountant, working within legal parameters. Business partner voluntarily providing evidence. FBI Financial Crimes Division has been investigating your firm for a year. We just gave them the missing pieces." I smiled. "You should have been more careful about who you pissed off, Robert." He looked at Emily, then back at me. Then he laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. "You're bluffing. You're just a washed-up old cop who thinks she's still relevant. You have nothing that will hold up in court. And even if you did, my father knows people, judges, prosecutors. We'll bury this, and we'll bury you." He stepped toward me, his face twisted with rage. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, old woman. And you," I said calmly, "are a bankrupt criminal." The front door opened. FBI agents flooded into my living room. Linda Morrison in front, 5 others behind her, all wearing tactical vests, all with their badges displayed. "Robert Chen," Linda announced. "You're under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, tax evasion, and domestic violence. You have the right to remain—" Robert's face went from rage to confusion to pure panic in the span of 3 seconds. "What? No, this is— You can't—" He looked around wildly, like he might find an escape route. "Emily, tell them this is a misunderstanding." Emily stood, walked past him without a word, and came to stand beside me. 2 agents grabbed Robert's arms. He struggled, but they were professionals, had him cuffed in seconds. "This is illegal," he shouted. "You recorded me without my consent. This is entrapment." "Ohio is a one-party consent state," Linda said pleasantly. "And your mother-in-law consented to recording in her own home. Everything you just said is admissible. You played yourself, Mr. Chen." They walked him toward the door. He twisted back, his face red and contorted. "My father will destroy you!" he screamed. "David Chen knows everyone in this city. You'll lose your pension, your house, everything. You're finished." "Your father is being arrested as we speak," Linda said. "Same with your mother and your business partner, Marcus Webb. Oh, wait, no, Marcus is cooperating. My mistake." Robert's screaming faded as they dragged him to the waiting FBI vehicle. Emily and I stood in my living room, listening to the sirens fade into the distance. She was shaking. I put my arm around her. "Is it over?" she whispered. "Not yet," I said. "But it will be." 3 weeks after Robert's arrest, I sat in a federal courtroom watching a man unravel. Robert Chen stood before Judge Patricia Harmon in an ill-fitting suit. They'd seized all his expensive clothes as proceeds of crime, with his court-appointed attorney beside him. His hair was unwashed. His eyes were hollow. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked like shock. Emily sat next to me in the gallery, her bruises finally faded to faint yellow smudges. She'd been going to therapy twice a week. Some days were better than others. The prosecutor, a sharp young woman named Jennifer Martinez, read the charges. Wire fraud across state lines, conspiracy to commit fraud, 2, tax evasion totaling $817,000, forgery, and 1 count of felonious assault. Robert didn't look at Emily. Couldn't, probably. Judge Harmon was in her 60s, gray-haired and granite-faced. She'd seen 1,000 Roberts in her career. How does the defendant plead? Not guilty, Your Honor, his attorney said. But Robert's face told a different story. He knew the evidence was overwhelming. Marcus Webb had provided everything: the dual books, the offshore accounts, recorded conversations. David Chen had already pled guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. Linda Chen was facing conspiracy charges. Vanessa had taken a plea deal and agreed to testify. The house of cards had collapsed completely. Bail is denied, Judge Harmon announced. The defendant is considered a flight risk given the offshore accounts and international financial ties. Remanded to federal custody until trial. Robert's shoulders sagged. 2 marshals led him away in handcuffs. Emily exhaled slowly beside me. Is it wrong that I feel sorry for him? No, I said. It means you're still human. That's something he took from you for a while. I'm glad you got it back. 2 months later, Emily received a letter from the Franklin County Detention Center. Emily, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I'm requesting a visitation. I need to say things to your face that I can't say in a letter. I understand if you refuse. Robert. She showed it to me over coffee in my kitchen. Should I go? Do you want to? I don't know. Part of me wants to see him suffer. Another part of me just wants to understand why. Then go, but I'm coming with you. And the visitation room at the detention center was exactly as depressing as you'd imagine. Gray walls, fluorescent lights, metal tables bolted to the floor. Emily and I sat on one side. Robert was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit, his hands cuffed in front of him. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. His face was gaunt, his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep, or crying, or both. He sat down slowly and looked at Emily. Really looked at her. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. His voice was different, smaller, stripped of all the bravado and charm. I wasn't sure you would. Emily said nothing, just waited. Robert's hands twisted in the cuffs. I've had a lot of time to think, about what I did, about who I became. He swallowed hard. There's no excuse for putting my hands on you. No excuse for stealing from you, for lying to you, for trying to destroy you when you figured it out. I can't take any of it back, and I wouldn't insult you by pretending I can. Then why am I here? Emily's voice was steady but cold. Because I need you to know it wasn't your fault. None of it. You didn't cause it, you didn't deserve it, and you couldn't have prevented it. Tears ran down his face, real ones. I was raised by a man who taught me that success meant taking what you wanted, crushing anyone who got in your way, and never showing weakness. My father. He's not a good person, Emily, and I became him. I became the thing I swore I'd never be. That's not an excuse, Martha said quietly. I know. Robert looked at me for the first time. You were right about everything. I thought I was untouchable. I thought wealth and connections made me invincible. I thought. He laughed bitterly. I thought I was smarter than a 62-year-old retired detective. That was my biggest mistake. One of many, I said. He nodded. The prosecutor offered me a deal. If I testify against my father, provide all the financial records he's been hiding, help them recover money from all his fraud victims, not just Emily, but the others over the years, they'll reduce my sentence from 20 years to 12. Emily leaned forward slightly. Are you going to take it? I already did. I signed the cooperation agreement yesterday. Robert's voice cracked. My father called me a traitor, said I was dead to him. But you know what? I don't care anymore. He made me into a monster, and I let him. It's time to stop the cycle. The room was silent, except for the hum of the fluorescent lights. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Robert said, looking at Emily. I don't deserve it. But I am asking for a chance, not to come back into your life, but to maybe, someday, decades from now, when I'm out of prison and I've done the work to become a different person, to maybe have a conversation where I'm not the villain anymore, just a person who did terrible things and spent the rest of his life trying to make amends. Emily was crying now, quiet tears that ran down her cheeks. I'll think about it, she said finally. If you testify. If you help return every penny you stole from me and everyone else. If you serve your time and actually become a different person. Then maybe, someday we can talk. But not today. Not for a long time. That's more than I deserve, Robert whispered. Thank you. We stood to leave. At the door, Emily turned back. Robert, I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. I really do. But you need to understand, I'm not waiting for you. I'm not holding my breath for your redemption. I'm moving on. I'm building a life where you don't exist. If you become a better person, that's for you, not for me. I understand. We walked out. The metal door clanged shut behind us. 6 months after Robert's arrest, Emily signed the lease on her own apartment, a sunny one-bedroom in German Village with hardwood floors and a small balcony. Her trust fund had been recovered, minus legal fees. She'd started a new job at a marketing firm that valued her skills. She was seeing a therapist who specialized in domestic violence recovery. She was rebuilding. We sat on my porch one evening in early autumn, watching the sun set over the maple trees that gave the street its name. The air smelled like wood smoke and fallen leaves. David Chen got 15 years, I said, reading from my phone. Linda got 8. Vanessa got 5 years probation for cooperating early. Marcus Webb got full immunity and has apparently gone to Gamblers Anonymous. And Robert? 12 years. Eligible for parole in 7 if he continues cooperating and completes all the rehabilitation programs. I looked at her. How do you feel about that? Emily sipped her tea, thinking, honestly? I hope he actually changes. Not for me. I meant what I said. But for whoever he might hurt next, if he doesn't. And maybe for himself. She smiled slightly. Is that weird? No, it's compassionate. It's human. I reached over and squeezed her hand. You're going to be okay, you know that? I know. Because you taught me something, Mom. What's that? That I'm made of steel, just like you. I felt tears prick my eyes, something I rarely allowed myself. You always were, honey. You just forgot for a while. I'm glad you remembered. We sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Robert had thought he could break my daughter, steal from her, abuse her, destroy her spirit and take everything she had. He'd forgotten she was raised by a woman who spent 23 years hunting monsters. He'd forgotten that steel doesn't break, it just gets stronger.